All right, folks, welcome in to the show. We are live November 12th, 2024. Man, what an interesting week in college football. Got some game reactions to week 11. Got a Tennessee Georgia preview. Finally, got a Tennessee Georgia week. Going to be one of the biggest games of the year. We've been saying that every single week, especially in the SEC, but it really is. This is going to be a massive weekend for not only Georgia coming off a loss to Ole Miss, but for Tennessee. Probably the first time a lot of folks have seen Tennessee in probably several weeks, probably even a month since the Bama game. So we'll talk about that. A lot of things to say there. To be quite frank, I am a little bit conflicted. So that tells you how, I guess, fascinating this game is to me. Then it is. It is fascinating to me. I'm very excited to finally break it down. We're finally here. I also got to address the Big Noon Kickoff problem. Something that I don't think a lot of folks are realizing that it is a big problem, but it kind of is becoming a big problem, especially with one Ohio State. I will address that. Don't worry, I will address that. Even though I'm not a Fox employee, I'm not an employee anywhere, but the Big Noon Kickoff situation has been problematic for a team like Ohio State because, well, I'll get to it later on. It's sort of becoming a problem, and I don't think a lot of folks have addressed it. I know some folks will eventually address it later or at some point today. Hint, hint, wink, wink. But yeah, I will address it here. So I got some thoughts on that. Also, Buccaneers 49ers reaction. Yet again, another loss and another entertaining game, but doesn't come out the way I personally wanted it to. But look, it's football. We'll get to that game later on. If you're new here, welcome in, by the way. We did a show on YouTube, some Spotify as well, the audio version. That's all we do it from. That's it. YouTube is fairly new. Spotify has been around since the beginning. We've actually been on Spotify a lot longer than we actually have been on YouTube, so it's kind of a weird. We were late on the YouTube thing. Long story short, had not say a hard time figuring out what I would do for YouTube Live if I was wanting to do YouTube, but now we're doing it live now, so it's on YouTube now. So if you're on the YouTube channel, as I do check in here real quick just to be sure we are live, I will go to the YouTube channel. If you're listening to us on audio version, this one probably won't even matter. But I'm going to go over to the live chat just to see prove that we are live. That is not a pre-recorded show. Here it is. I believe you can hear me on here. I'm going to check to put hey into the chat just to prove that I have access to it. And I'm going to check and see if the sound works as well. So forgive me if you hear feedback. This is just me just helping and making sure the sound is actually on. I believe you can hear me on here. Okay, so yeah, if you heard the double echo there, and yes, it is. The sound is working this time. So again, if you're new here, welcome in. Spotify or YouTube version, welcome in. Be sure to subscribe to both platforms, all right? Spotify, subscribe, and nothing happens. I don't show up to your house. I don't force you to sign anything. I don't call your phone. I don't send you text messages or emails. I don't send you stuff in the mail. Completely free. Nothing happens. Same with YouTube. I don't call you on your phone and visit your house or wherever you live. I don't come there and, knock on your door and be like, hey, sign up for this and whatnot. Don't do that here. This is a completely free show. So it's not behind a paywall. You don't have to give me money. If you do, then I'm not suggesting you should, but there's like no one watching the show live right now, so it's not like anyone's going to be donating right now. But yeah, nothing happens. Just subscribe, hit the little bell notification too if you want to. Personally, I don't actually do that. I just check my YouTube daily, albeit because it's it's the most popular social media site. For those who don't know, yes, YouTube is a social media site, contrary to what popular belief tells you. But yeah, just make sure you subscribe there. The show is live right now. The show is also going to be recording on Spotify as well. So we are recording as well. We're recording on both. So long intro aside, about 4 minutes. Let's get into the show. Week 11 reaction. Bama 42, LSU 13. This was a very disappointing game. If you're just a generic fan of college football, very boring. Bama, the best way I can put it, really, if you were to look at this very generically here, because I know it's been well over 72 hours, well, definitely well over 24 hours since the game concluded. So there's not much that's been said there about Mold. There's not much I could say that what everyone else has said. Like everyone has everything you've probably seen. All different people. Josh Pay cover 3, JD Pickell on 3. So you've heard other takes. Me, I'm not going to go through this about this game that much because, again, it's fairly boring if we're going to be honest. Bama kind of made an announcement. A lot of teams, especially around this year, will begin to announce themselves as playoff contenders, or at the very least, teams that hold the potential to do so. I've been hammering on this since that Vanderbilt loss, and it's not just me saying it too; it's other people saying it as well. That the Bama first half against Georgia has always sort of been there, because we saw it. It's not like something from that game. That Georgia game wasn't AI. It wasn't like a TV show. It wasn't a video game. It wasn't College Football 25. It was actual real life. It was a real result, 28-0 at one point. So that version of Bama still exists. Like I even said that back after the Vanderbilt game and even after the Tennessee game. That version of Bama still exists. It's just throughout the season we get 12 versions of a team. You can say the same thing about Ole Miss. Can say the same thing about LSU. Can say the same thing about Georgia. Say the same thing about Michigan, Michigan State, Penn State, Western Kentucky, Eastern Washington. They're FCS, but who cares? We'll include them. You can say that about all these teams. You get 12 versions of a team every single year within the regular season. 12 versions of a team every single game. This is another example of that. We saw a very dominant Bama team. Bama also, like we predicted last week, using the Texas A&M formula to expose an improving LSU defense. Obviously, it's improving a lot because it's a new defensive staff there. And also, again, I'm not the only one who's been saying this. Bud Elliott over on Cover 3 pointed this out weeks ago, and credit to him for doing so. LSU is also an improved defense because Harold Perkins isn't there, and frankly, he's out because of injury, but they are playing better because they're not having to play defense around him. They're not having to scheme things around him because he doesn't fit to what Blake Baker's trying to do. They're actually now with the backups, they're actually starting to play a defense that they want to play. Now, obviously, it didn't matter because they lost the game Saturday. And that can be like me saying, oh, yeah, I got water from my refrigerator today. Congratulations, you got water from your refrigerator. Apologies for those who don't have water, but so it's easy for me to say that retroactively because Harold Perkins is down, but I agree with Bud. They are an improved defense without him because they're not having to scheme around him. Again, it doesn't matter because they lost the game, but for Bama, they did the same formula or the same recipe that A&M used, running quarterback. And where it seemed like with Texas A&M, that A&M game, it was like, okay, it was a surprise moment and probably prep on at least Marcel Ray being in the game. I don't know if I fully believe in that, but look, I'm not a coach. I don't, me, I'm not, if you're listening on Spotify now, obviously we're not on YouTube, but as you'll know me, as we continue to go through this show journey and the journey of the show, I'm not very, how should I say this? I'm very conservative in calling out coaches, right? I don't call them for them getting fired. I don't question play calling that much. I don't question their decision-making on hiring staff. That is their decision. I'm not here to judge that. I never coach college football. I don't know anything about coaching football. I just watch the sport for what it is. I listen to other insiders on their opinions on what they're seeing. So LSU players saying, hey, we didn't expect Marcel Reed to play in the game. Okay, I may have my own personal feelings on that, but I'll give him benefit of the doubt. Sure, it was a surprise moment. Wegman was looking like Connor Wegman usually does, or what he's looked like mostly, if you look at the analytical data, or analogs too, if you want to use that term. So, okay, that was at least reasonable, I guess, though I can understand why people will question it. Now you get to the Bama game, and it's like, okay, Jalen Merrill and Bama literally just flexed their muscles all over you, and they did what Texas A&M did. He was running quarterback very effectively. It also helps, too, that Bama was off a bye week. So Jalen Merrill, his performance, not yesterday. It's not Sunday. It's Tuesday. His performance on Saturday, I think reaffirms the theory going around. Well, not theory. Let's just be real. It is what it is. It's basically confirmed that Jalen Merrill was not 100% healthy. And I think this bye week helped. He gets a little bit stronger, fresher legs, or I guess wheels, or whatever term we want to use. And you saw what he did. He ran over LSU. He had like 15 yards per carry, which is not a running back stat, by the way. That's a quarterback. So, hats off to Kellen DeBoer, man. This is huge. Very huge win for him. It was a tough environment. If you watched the game, like I know I did, and I wasn't there like some of you were, some of the big national types, so I wasn't there at the game. I was watching on TV. Atmosphere is good. They had the Tiger back, although it's not Mike the Tiger. Just for clarification, his name is Omar Bradley. Okay, that's the Tiger's actual name. He came from Florida somewhere, and so the live Tiger was there. It's not Mike. It's Omar Bradley. At least that's the name of the tiger. I mean, you can call him Mike, whatever you want, but that's not the tiger's actual name. So the tiger, there was a tiger there, live tiger in a cage, obviously. The atmosphere was fantastic, even though it was raining because of the moisture from the tropical system that was coming into it. It was not a direct impact. It was still a very good atmosphere. Tiger Stadium was effective for about 10 minutes. Then it wasn't. It just went away. It's like a balloon popping as it goes into the sky because the air pressure gets a lot more intense. And you should know that's like basic science. That's kind of what happened to Tiger Stadium. Just very deflating. The stadium was basically empty by the time when the fourth quarter started. You can tell on TV with the ABC shots and whatnot. So again, huge win for Kalen DeBoer, silencing the crowd there. Now for Bama, they have an interesting situation here. So they play an FCS team. So you get that. Oklahoma, interesting, scary, a little bit scary. It's a good defense, probably the best defense collectively. I think you played since Tennessee. So you get them. It's on the road. It's before the Iron Bowl. And then obviously you get it in the Iron Bowl to end the season. No real fear in those games, or those games wouldn't scare me, but just pay attention to those. If Bama plays like Bama has been playing and the versions we get in those two games are more reminiscent of the Bama teams against, South Carolina and Vanderbilt, those are games that they can, of course, win both of them. They can also lose one of them. So there's a very high ceiling and there's a lot of variance here in terms of where Bama can go here. But Bama, when they're playing to their full potential, and Josh Pate said this on Sunday, and I totally agree. Bama, much like Ole Miss, much like some of these teams, or a lot of you left them for dead. Not all of you, some of you, me kind of included. I think Ole Miss a little bit lower on them. I will frankly be honest. I was a little bit lower on them. Bama, I was not. So I do agree with Pate there. That those are teams, Bama, Ole Miss, teams that you left for dead, that could, if everything works out, they can perform at a very high level continuously. They can sustain that for a long period of time because, again, if they expand the playoff and having to play a lot more games now, because a team that doesn't get a first-round bye has to play a NFL regular season length, which is 17 games, could win the national title. Could. I just emphasize the word could here. It's just those teams have potential to do it, especially Bama. A lot of talent there. Jalen Murrow, especially there, if he continues to stay healthy enough and play at a very high efficiency and can be still effective in the run game, they can win every single game. Texas is like that. Ohio State's like that. Now, there's certain teams that aren't like that. Now, we kind of found out LSU wasn't like that, or at least it's starting to look like they are not like that. Texas A&M is like that. Indiana, I think they're sort of there, but Indiana's a very unique situation. Of course, one of us is the brand name. Kind of the same problem too with BYU. We'll talk about that. I think maybe we'll do that Thursday, maybe. But this is, again, a huge win for Kellen DeBoer and Bama, flexing your muscles, making an announcement. They're still alive. And as Josh Pate says, you had a chance to cut the head off the snake. You didn't. So they're still around. They're, hello. We're still around. And to everyone crying on Kellen DeBoer and writing his obituary for this year's Bama team, everyone's saying that he was an idiot. He's Brian Arson 2.0. Okay. So, you still think that way? Okay. I don't doubt Kellen DeBoer at all. I don't. So, for Brian Kelly and LSU, I'll wrap this up and we'll move on here because there's a lot of things I want to get to. There's two other games I want to talk about here because, again, this is still multiple days ago, so it's kind of redundant. But for LSU, I mean, look, most of your reasonable postseason goals are probably gone. More than likely, they're probably gone, right? That's fine. That happens in college football, and don't move on from that. They got they still have long ways to go on defense, especially in the QB run game. And look, now I'm not, I didn't play college football. I didn't, I'm just not an expert in this stuff. I don't really, how should I say this? I've never been in a position to talk to any coaches or whatnot, or have access to that. But I know those guys are very hard workers. Blake Baker, especially Kevin Peoples, the defensive line coach, Bo Davis, the whatever assistant coaches there. They brought in this whole new unit on the coaching side. They're not dumb people. So yes, you can criticize them for not being ready for the QB run, and maybe they were overperforming or over prepping some stuff or over calling some stuff. Look, I'm not a person that's going to dial up a grease board or go get a chalkboard and start writing down math equations and how this equates to college football and whatnot. I don't do that. I just don't. And I still have faith in the staff. And this loss, in my opinion, doesn't change my thoughts on any of them. Defensive coaches, offensive coaches, or Brian Kelly. It doesn't. This is what it is. Garrett Nussmeier, I know a lot of folks were very excited about him. A lot of folks thought he could have been a very high commodity come NFL draft time. I don't see. It's weird because, again, he has so much potential, Nussmeier. And look, Bud Elliott mentioned it back over the summer that he felt there's a chance he could be the best quarterback in this draft class. He's not totally wrong on that. I think the intel he was getting was not wrong. Though, of course, when we go for the season, like I just mentioned earlier, you get, and within a 12-game regular season, 12 versions of a team. So you're getting the version of LSU you saw this weekend looked just not good enough. And they got splattered all over across Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So my opinions, again, on Garrett Nussmeier, Brian Kelly, I don't want to hear the whole, is he a fit or he's on the hot seat? Like, whatever, who cares? You can think that way. I'm not. Their future, by the way, and I agree with Pate, too. He said this on Sunday. The future for LSU and also Michigan, too, by the way, kind of a 2-for-1 special here, is with Bryce Underwood, the 5-star quarterback that is out of Michigan, committed to LSU. There's some rumblings that Michigan's, their NIL collective there is making a strong push. So there's some Michigan movement there, obviously the big home school. He's still committed to LSU. There was a lot of some tension there, whether or not he's actually going to end up committing on December, early signing day, or not early signing day. It is signing day now. By the way, coming soon to a theater near you, National Signing Day just creeping up. Here it comes. It's waving hello in the rearview mirror because it's right behind you. That'll be interesting to see. Come December, what is that? The first Wednesday or the second Wednesday of December? Somewhere around the first 2 weeks of December. Be interesting to see. And I think for LSU, not too much extreme like Florida State is, which, by the way, I will talk about them actually on Thursday about some of the staff moves they're making because they did move. They are making some moves, and they are, for all intents and purposes, now in 2025 and 2024, you may as well just, at least from a fan perspective, obviously you've probably called it a while ago, but from the coaching standpoint, yeah, it's officially 2025 now, not 2024. The same thing can be kind of set for LSU. It's Bryce Underwood. Make sure you sign him, keep him lock and key, because that's sort of your future. That's Brian Kelly's future. That's sort of the guy that's going to be, excuse the hiccup and burp there. That's kind of your future, and that's who you're putting all your chips in the middle for. So at this point, at least from the recruiting standpoint, from what it looks like, that is sort of what they're going – that's sort of the move going forward right now. It's Bryce Underwood, and now you're just trying to get ready for 2025. I want to discuss here as we move along – we have 2 more games here, then we'll get into Tennessee preview, Big Noon Kickoff. I'll discuss the, controversy surrounding that and 49ers Buccaneers reaction real quick. Probably not going to be a long show, but not long in terms of topics, but who knows? We'll try to be here for an hours per usual. Georgia Ole Miss. Called this game correctly. I thought the revenge factor was there for Ole Miss. Final score in this one was 20, I believe it was 28-10. Double check. I don't know why I forgot this. I should know this. It's been a couple of days, too. It's been a lot going on, really. So, yeah, 28-10. I got that correct. So, 28-10. Very good, strong effort defensively. Kind of interesting from a Pete Golding coach team holding Georgia to 10 points. Seen that before, haven't we? Sort of. That's when Pete Golding was at Bama. So, man, what a difference that hire makes. And a lot of folks are clowning on him for that now. Grant you, Ole Miss has a very good defensive line. Walter Nolan, yes, he's going to be a pretty high draft pick come the springtime. Offense looked good enough to win the game, though you can make the argument, or at least make the assumption based on this game, or at least the analysis here, that Ole Miss in this game sort of showed you that much like Ohio State the past couple of years, where they've been winning in different ways of defense, Ole Miss can kind of sort of do that too. And it looked pretty scary. If Jackson Dart goes down, they bring in the true freshman. Doesn't matter. Scores a touchdown in the first drive. Some struggles towards the middle of the game. But it kind of didn't matter because Georgia has limitations at quarterback. Obviously, that's been well documented. We'll touch on Georgia, actually, for the Tennessee game. So I'm not going to sound like I'm repeating myself because we don't have a Sunday show or like a Saturday reaction show. So I'm saying a lot of this stuff about some of these teams that we're previewing games for kind of doesn't make any sense to repeat it. So Georgia, yes, quarterback limitations, offensive limitations. I'll touch on that in the Tennessee segment. But for Ole Miss, they're not dead. Same with Bama. Just because you leave them for dead doesn't mean they don't have opportunities. And this was one of those games. It was a revenge game for what happened last year. It was 56-17, 56-24, I believe, something like that. You can tell that this is the game, or this was a game that Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss were preparing for. Again, I mentioned this on last week, that games like this, games like the Bama-Georgia game, games like, Ohio State-Michigan next certain extent, this is where all of the preparation in the spring, summer, fall camp, nutrition, coaching hires, recruiting, the games like this is where this all comes in. We're all kind of gels together. And for Ole Miss, you can also include the transfer portal because that's where they got most of these players from, majority of them. Again, getting guys like Walter Nolan, guys in past years in the portal, getting that depth, at least on the top heavy. Bottom levels, questionable, but they won the game. They took advantage of the situation. And you look at Ole Miss, their schedule's interesting because their two toughest test years. I kind of look after peruse their schedule here. They get a bye week, so then they play Florida, then they play Mississippi State. That's it. That's all they have left on the regular season schedule. And if things fall into place, and certainly now again, that whole SEC tiebreaker situation, by the way, it's a whole other segment I could probably do. There's a really good chance that Ole Miss could be in Atlanta or could not be in Atlanta at 10-2. So after the Mississippi State game, they're probably going to go dark more than likely. So you will not probably see them until the first round of the playoff. So very exciting to see that for someone living in Mississippi, Ole Miss fan. Like, this is a very exciting time. I will be honest with you, I was very low on them. So I will sort of admit that I was concerned about this team quitting after the LSU game, and they lost 2 games. And what they've done, sort of like a lot of teams have done in the past, Auburn 2017, you take the lowest moment you were at and use that as motivation. Now, again, that sounds like cliche. That sounds like something you would see in like a motivational movie or whatever, like taking your lowest point and using it as motivation going forward. It seems like Ole Miss is doing that a little bit. And again, they have opportunity here. And I grant you, much like Alabama, those 2 games, they can lose those 2 games. There's no doubt in my mind they can lose those 2 games. At Florida, Mississippi State probably not, but Florida, if DJ Lagway's healthy, be careful. Be very careful. Now, again, they're off a bye, so it's, grant you, that hasn't really mattered that much because the bye advantage hasn't really been there that much, or hasn't been, I guess, on full display that much this year, because we've seen teams on bye having bye advantages and it didn't matter. Louisville, Clemson, UCF, Colorado, examples 1A and 1B, or examples A and example B. But, Ole Miss, very interesting scenario here because, again, they win the next 2 games. They finished 10-2. At least that's what I believe will happen. And there's a good chance they go dark. They don't make it to Atlanta. Like, they don't play Bama. They don't play Bama. They don't play Tennessee either. So they go dark. And more likely, this is probably the last time you've seen Ole Miss until December for most of you. Now, most of you like me who are going to watch the Florida game are definitely going to watch the Egg Bowl on Friday. By the way, kind of strange that game's on a Black Friday now and not Thanksgiving. I'm pretty sure that's what it is, right? It's on Friday instead of Thursday. I'm going to double check that. Yeah, it's on Black Friday now. So it's, 3:30 on ABC. So, yeah, that's kind of it. So for most of the country, that's yesterday or not. I keep on thinking this is Sunday. Saturday was the last time you're probably going to see Ole Miss for most of the general public. College football sickos, we'll continue watching the games. And for most of you, wave goodbye to Ole Miss. We'll see you guys in December. But a huge win for Lane Kiffin. Finally a big win for him and getting that landmark victory. And again, in the power ratings world, Ole Miss was still a top 10 team. Josh Pitt can tell you until he's blue in the face. They still are, and they haven't moved. And in fact, they might be even higher in today's JP poll. Here I am defending him again. His power ratings, but he kind of needs it because everyone craps on him. And just in general, power ratings in general, everyone craps on the whole concept. But for those of you in the power rating world, for those of you specifically for those of you who don't follow it, Ole Miss was never out of the top 10. They're always in it, and it'll be interesting to see if the playoff committee, if they course correct and they put Ole Miss pretty high up there. And the power ratings are still in the top 10. Ole Miss, no problem with that. I think on the neutral field they'll be favored over a lot of teams. We'll just see it again. Ranking versus power rating. I'm not going to go into that. I've done it before. I'm not going to repeat myself. But yeah, Ole Miss, you have your path here. You can win your next 2 games. You'll probably be in the playoff more than likely. I mean, I think it's kind of getting close to a guarantee. But again, that Florida game, I'm watching that one. That's in a couple weeks. But yeah, probably the last time a lot of people will see Ole Miss. But that's just fine. I'll continue watching their games. But the casual general publicer will be waving goodbye to Ole Miss for the rest of the regular season, probably. And who knows? Maybe they may or may not be in Atlanta. We'll see. How about that? What if they actually do make it? That'll probably blow a lot of your people, a lot of your minds will be blown if Ole Miss makes it somehow to Atlanta. Very small chance it'll happen, but never say never. Georgia Tech beat Miami on Sunday. Probably for some of you, the most shocking loss of the Saturday. Not me. Me and Josh Pate. Actually, when I did my show on Thursday, he actually brought this game up on his upset alert. So then again, two minds thinking alike here. This game didn't really surprise me. I thought it'd be a close game. Now, yeah, Miami losing the game is surprising, but it's something that's becoming a trend from Miami the past number of weeks. Virginia Tech, California, Louisville, good win, but again, close. Florida State's an outlier. Duke, close for a little bit, pulling away. Then you get the Georgia Tech game. And the example that Josh Pate used, and I kind of agree with him, Miami finally got caught running a red light. And they lost. That's all I have to say. It's kind of strange. He even pointed this out. Pate did, and I thought this is interesting too. Georgia Tech only needed 28 points to score. So this is not a high scoring game. This is not a game that was in like the mid 30s or low 40s. This is a fairly low scoring game, very entertaining game. I was watching this at a local Buffalo Wild Wings. I went there this weekend and watched most of the noon games. And this game was not the primary game because those Texas and Florida. I'm not going to touch on that game. By the way, I've already touched on Billy Napier being retained. There's that emergency podcast is on the YouTube channel and Spotify, by the way. So that result is what it is. DJ Lagway didn't play and whatever. But for Miami, Georgia Tech, it's a loss. Shout out, by the way, to Brent Key yet again. Another big win for him. The biggest win in his career already. 2 big ones. Florida State one does lost a lot of his luster, or a whole lot. This one's a little bit different. Great atmosphere. Fans rushed the field over there in Bobby Dodd. Haynes King was back too, so that's cool. What can I say? Brent Key and company are having a very good year. I believe they had 7 wins. Is that right? Is Georgia Tech 7-4 or 6-4? Yeah. So they're having a very good year. Very interesting too. But that Brent Key story too of him getting that coaching job, and originally it was going to be Willie Fritz, the former head coach of Tulane. He wasn't going to get that job, by the way, and he didn't. I think Josh Pate touched on that a couple years ago. Don't think a lot of folks mentioned it. I think Cover 3 did mention it too. But yeah, Willie Fritz was going to be the coach at Georgia Tech. A lot of folks were kind of confused why he didn't get that job, but turns out they made the right decision. Who's to me to call out administrators for hiring coaches? But a huge win for Georgia Tech. For Miami, it just kind of is what it is. I mean, if you're a Miami fan, you know the rest of your schedule. Wake Forest, you should win that game. Though it is a noon kickoff weekend. We have a bye week too, but then again, it's a bye week in South Florida, so just be careful there. It's actually where the bye advantage can actually be an actual disadvantage. So, but you get Wake Forest. Generally, you should win that game. Then you go to Syracuse. Grant you, I would be more concerned about that Syracuse game actually if it was outdoors, because one weather team going to a cold weather environment, but luckily it's in a dome, so that shouldn't be too much of a concern for Miami. But it just is what it is. I mean, a lot of folks are clowning on Mario Cristobal and Shannon Dawson and Lance Gatorade, that whole coaching staff there. I'm not. I saw a lot of faith in them. Probably in the playoff. I think they just got to win the ACC, because it's starting to look less and less now that 2 teams from the ACC and the Big 12 will probably be in. The winner and loser will not both be in the playoff. So for Miami, it's in their best interest to continue winning their games. And who knows, maybe this is a good thing for them to get this out of their system and to finally, finally getting stopped by the spike strips and the cop pulls over and they give you a ticket. You sort of learn your lesson the way learn your lesson the way it's intended to be learned versus the way Miami was living. But yeah, good win for Georgia Tech and for Miami. My thoughts on that have not changed. You're still a good team, not an elite team, but a good team. You certainly have flaws on defense. That's when you can't really clean it up even now. What even cleaning up even means in college football, because you can't really do that. But you just gotta, at this point, really is become survival in advance. If it looks bad, then okay, it's gonna look bad. We can talk about that. But they're scheduled in the last 2 games, very workable, but they can lose those 2 games. Be careful. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that game. My opinions on Miami has not changed. Georgia Tech, he's went for Brent Key and company. How about that? I think Brent Key is undefeated versus ranked teams in the ACC. So fun little fact there. I believe that's correct, right? He's at least 1 loss or undefeated. I know he's lost to Georgia, so that doesn't matter, but or at least that kind of makes that meaningless. But pretty sure he has only 1 loss in the ACC towards ranked teams. Or I actually believe he is undefeated too. So how about that? What's up with that? Brent Key owning Miami the past couple of years. How about that? I'm gonna get some water real quick here. How long have we been going for? 30 minutes. So not too bad. I'm gonna get some water real quick. Going to check and see how many pokes we have in the live chat. We have 2 people watching. How about that? So whoever is watching right now, hey, welcome into the show. So what I am going to do is going to get some water real quick. Going to do the Tennessee Georgia preview. Then we'll do my thoughts on Big Noon Kickoff, and then finish up with the Buccaneers stuff, 49ers game. So again, your podcast feed, nothing happening, nothing's broken or anything. The sound's fine. Just taking some water real quick. Make sure the voice survives here. All right, we're back. By the way, if you're new here, again, as we sort of reach the midway point, again, be sure you subscribe to the Spotify feed. Make sure you subscribe there. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. And be sure to like the live stream too and some of the videos we have on there. Again, it's only just me doing this. I don't have an editor. I don't have really anyone editing this stuff. So maybe at some point we'll get a editor and we can put out individual videos. But at this point, probably not worth it to do it. But hey, it's just us right now. And we're making it work. We're definitely making it work. And it's been a great journey having now almost close to 50 shows. Getting close, halfway there to the coveted 100 episode mark, which means you can get syndication, kids, if you didn't know that. Used to be an old thing in TV. I think it still is, but it used to be more important. Tennessee, Georgia, 7:30 on ABC. By the way, too, I want to bring this up, too, before we go into this, actually. Speaking of ABC. Kirk Herbstreit, by the way, I was going to bring this up during the LSU segment. I kind of totally forgot. But if you guys didn't realize this, I was going to mention this. This happened actually after the show. Well, actually, both shows after the emergency podcast about Billy Napier being retained and the main show. Ben Herbstreit passed away. Sad to hear that. Ben has been a very interesting character to follow around. If you don't know, that was Ben. Ben was Kirk Herbstreit's oldest golden retriever. He has, I think, a couple others. Peter, youngest one, was actually at game day this weekend. So that was cool to see him kind of carrying on his brother's legacy. But yeah, he passed away on Thursday. So very sad to see that. Never had a dog before. I've had different pets like fish and stuff, but it's a little bit different with a dog. So I never experienced that before, what Kirk was going through. So I can only imagine what he was going through. But sucks that we'll never see Ben again roaming the sidelines. But man, wasn't that and just an incredible era we're living in college game. They haven't been around, and him being on the Thursday night football broadcast, and him being at the Saturday night football games. His last appearance, by the way, was with Reveille at Texas A&M. So that's the last time a lot of us saw him. He'll be missed. Feel for you, Kirk. I know you were pretty emotional on game day during your little segment even beforehand. So that was tough. But interesting to see if Peter is going to continue his older brother's legacy there. So that'll be interesting. He was at game day this past weekend. So I don't know if he's going to be back or not. But yes, that happened Saturday. I'm sure a lot of you guys know by now, but not to say it happened on Thursday, but obviously a lot of people have known about it now. But yeah, that was sad to see that on the social media waves on Thursday. But speaking of Kirk, he'll be there with Chris Fowler. Holly Rowe will be there. Big game here. Tennessee, Georgia. Georgia minus 9.5 according to FanDuel. Again, off the top here, I do not provide betting advice. I don't do that. I don't. I'm not advocating for you to go ahead and bet. If you want to, you can. If it's illegal in your state, because it's not legal everywhere. But if you want to bet, go ahead. If you don't want to, you don't have to. I'm just using this for purposes in terms of analyzing the game and predicting it. So according to FanDuel, the betting markets, they are Tennessee is a 10-point dog, basically. Pretty close to a 10-point dog. So I'm going to touch on the Georgia angle first and the Tennessee thing. For Georgia, because I didn't mention them on the Ole Miss reaction for a reason, because again, I'm going to repeat what I just said. But for Georgia, clearly they have offensive deficiencies. Limited on offense. Carson Beck has regressed. He once again had multiple turnovers. I don't know what happened there. He went from being a very high draft pick commodity to he may end up being a very late round pick or maybe even a free agent. I'm not going to get in that stuff here. That's for NFL shows to go over that, or shows that focus on the NFL come April and March. But there's some deficiencies there. A lot of people questioning on Mike Bobo. I'm not doing that. I think he's fine. I think it definitely is a quarterback performance issue because they got talent there. Georgia has talent, which is the one thing I think a lot of folks are forgetting about. Because again, I just have this weird thing. I think a lot of folks are picking Tennessee to win this game because I think people believe Tennessee has a better offense, better coaching staff, better quarterback, better defense. Are we sure about that? As much as a Josh Heupel fan I am, I just wonder, is that true? Because from the Georgia angle, they have talent, and they've lost 2 games, much like Bama LSU. For some reason, a lot of folks are calling this a playoff elimination game. I don't think it really is, though, but you can call it that. I can call it the Tennessee-Georgia rivalry because it is a big ordeal. Grant you, the games have not been that entertaining. The last time Tennessee actually beat Georgia was, what was it? Was it 2015, I believe? So yeah, it's been almost 10 years. They have not won this game. Pretty sure that's correct, right? Yeah. So it's been well over 10 years. So this will be the first time in around 9 to 10 years that Tennessee has pulled this off, and be the first time in a while since they beat them in Athens too. So there's that losing streak. Pretty sure that's correct, right? They have not beaten them in Athens in a while. Should probably double check that. Probably should here. Let me actually do that. Should have done this beforehand, but just to confirm that Tennessee has not beaten Georgia. I'm correct on that. I should have done this research. Yeah, so it has been 10 years. Actually, yeah, so it has been a little bit since they've beaten them in Athens. So it was correct. Yeah, so it was 2016, 2015 is the last time they won. They've won the game in Knoxville, and they won the game in Athens. So it's actually been around 7 years. But either way, it's been a while. So this would be the first time in closer, about around 10 years since they've beaten them. So from the Georgia angle, you can't let that happen, right? Georgia, under Kirby Smart, this will be the first time since their first year that they've lost more than 2 games. At least in the regular season. Now, grant you, what was it? 2018, they lost in the Sugar Bowl, so it's 3 losses, but take away the postseason included. Regular season, the first time since 2016, they've lost multiple games. And is that what you think Georgia is right now? Because Georgia still has a lot of talent. Regardless of what you think of Carson Beck or Mike Bobo or Glenn Schumann, they still have talent. It's Georgia. They are the most talented team Tennessee has faced. It's going to be the best environment they have faced. It's a Georgia team that is pretty desperate. And Georgia will pull off this win. Now they're favored by almost 10 points, double digits. So Vegas feels pretty good about it. They just got to play the best game of their year. They have to play at a very high level on defense. The defensive line has to step up. The Georgia offensive line has to step up. That's been a very bad weakness for them. Carson Beck also needs to play a lot better, or at least play without making too many mistakes. Now, unfortunately, it's kind of the same thing that happened to me as a Bucs fan with Jameis Winston. We just have to assume he's going to make a lot of turnovers in every game, at least at this point. So I expect Saturday. Now, obviously, you can't forecast when a interception is going to happen, but just safe to assume he's going to throw a pick, maybe a fumble, who knows, but just assume there will be at least 1 turnover in there. I can almost guarantee that. Low chance it may not happen, but there's a very high chance it will happen, that there will be at least a turnover included. So we got to at least limit those, run the football, I think is one key. Testing that Tennessee defense, because it's very good defense. Tennessee. They've not been exposed that much. Bama sort of. I don't recall Arkansas doing that. So the Tennessee defense, secondaries in particular, that has not been exposed properly. Can Georgia do that? I don't think so. But Georgia, at least physically, can very much so meet them. The running back situation is not actually the problem there. Certainly, their offensive line's an issue. Again, Carson Beck, that's a whole other can of worms, and I've already mentioned that. He's got to limit the turnovers just to a minimum, and he's got to play within the system. Like, you have to at least manage him to a certain degree to where he performs offense to a certain extent, operates it within the guardrails. Because I do believe the Tennessee secondary can be had on. I just don't know if Georgia can do it. They also don't have the wide receiver depth they would like to have. I know some of those guys have been dismissed from the team or not on the team for various reasons, some of it because of injury and some of it because of legal issues. But there's a lot of pride on this Georgia team. Again, as a team at home, desperation times, a call for desperate measures or whatever that saying goes. Their back's against their wall. It's at home, too, so it's a night game in Athens, Georgia. So, again, there's still a lot of talent. There's a lot of pride. There's a lot of good coaches, too. Like, Kirby Smart's not dumb, right? He didn't just get stupid from the past calendar year. Like, he's still a very good coach and elite coach. He knows how to win games. And this is one of those games at home that they have been winning. Ole Miss last year, Tennessee a couple years ago when they were number one team in the country. These are the type of games where Georgia has risen to their ability and won. I think Texas this past year. So, but I kind of say all that to say a dominant Georgia performance defensively and at least doing something offensively that can limit your mistakes is still out there. That version of Georgia we saw against Texas is still there. It's still there. Same with Bama first half versus Georgia. That version of Bama is still out there. We kind of saw it versus LSU. Can Georgia do that? Can they be physical on the O-line? Why was that so hard for me to say? Let me start over. Can they be physical on the offensive line? That's the thing I'm looking at. So can you be physical on that side of the ball? Can you match Tennessee's defensive line physicality? Because they'll match it. Like Tennessee defense can travel. Even their loss to Arkansas. Very physical still. Low scoring game. So can they bring that? This is the best defensive unit that Josh Heupel has had. So I will expect a very good defensive performance there for Tennessee to win this game. If you have to pull off this big upset, because it's a big spread, 9.5, pretty big. I believe it's the second time they've been a dog. I believe first is Bama, now this one, and they beat Bama. So at this point, spread didn't matter then. But when it comes to predicting games, at least for this purpose, it matters. So what I'm looking for Tennessee here is pretty clear. How is Nico going to operate a true road environment? Has not really seen this at all this year. To be pretty fair with you, he really has not. And this will be the first time he's really faced that. Arkansas was probably the first time he's seen that. Now you're getting an even more hostile environment in Georgia, and a much more talented team than Georgia. And what Tennessee or what Arkansas did to them, if you want to look at the, transitive property, not transitive property, analytical data, sort of analogs for previous teams that have stopped the Tennessee veer and shoot offense. Arkansas did it with Travis Williams. Glenn Schumann's done it multiple times. So there's guys, both of those teams, both coordinators, Schumann's done it multiple times. Travis Williams did it this year, that have faced this offense, and they have done a pretty good job doing it. Now, grant you, this Tennessee offense, at least this year, is not necessarily scoring a whole lot of points against the P4 competition, but then again, they have a very good defense, and sort of like that Ohio State thing that everyone's mentioned in the past, that Ohio State recently, once they've hired Jim Knowles, have been able to win games in different ways. Tennessee's doing that. They're winning games in different ways. Low scoring games, physical, having good defensive line versus a very average Georgia offensive line. But for Nico, it's your first big road test, buddy. These are the games for a Tennessee fan. I couldn't Tennessee staffer, head coach, booster, administrator. Nico's the type of quarterback that you get to win games like this. So it's there for their best interest to either perform very well, lose the game okay, at least we're getting at least closer, but a win here would be really huge. The biggest win for Josh Heupel in his career, I believe. Well, at least, at the very least one of them. The Bama win, certainly a couple years ago, first time, huge. Winning the Orange Bowl for Clemson, huge. This would be up there as one of the biggest wins in Tennessee history. But I go back to... So I've been on back and forth on this one for a little bit. Obviously, I thought a lot about this. Just the outcomes, right? There's a path I can see Georgia winning this game. There's also a path for Tennessee can win the game again. It's Tennessee being very physical on defense, overwhelming a very weakened Georgia offensive line. Maybe they get some turnover luck. Nico has the best game of his career. Sampson, the running back, has very good success, much like what Ole Miss was able to do somewhat, and kind of what Bama was able to do. But grant you, Bama nor Ole Miss had that big of a running aspect, right? Bama didn't really run the ball that well, really against Georgia. So it'll be interesting to see. That's another matchup too. Is the Tennessee O line versus Georgia's D line? Ken Dylan Sampson, I guess in yards, he's a really good running back, but Tennessee this year has been very run oriented. Now that's what the offense is, by the way. The veer and shoot, very much so run oriented. Yes, they threw the ball, but it starts at the run, starts at the pass. It's the cliche stuff, but it really is true for this offense. So that'll be interesting to see how they do that. So that's me kind of the key here. Can they do that? And also, can Nico play at a higher level he has not been playing at in several months? So the College Ball Nerds model, which is a model I've been using, College Ball Nerds. I'll attach their site to the description of the live stream when we're over here, when we're done recording it, or when it's done. I'm done recording the audio version and the actual stream itself, so I'll add it in at some point, probably later tonight. But I look at this game from the College Ball Nerds model, and they have it pretty close. They have it almost dead even. The actual number is Georgia 17 or Tennessee 17.4, Georgia 17.2. So very much still on the money. Very close game, almost a pick 'em. And I have it as their model, College Ball Nerds, having the game as a Tennessee's very, very small favorite 0.02. 0.2, minus 0.2, which obviously that doesn't exist in football, but it just tells you that it's a very close game. So as much as I love the Georgia atmosphere, I've never been in the game there, by the way. I've never been there, but I love what Georgia's doing. I fully respect the atmosphere there. I fully respect too that this will be a situation where Georgia's going to be very amped up, and they are going to be in a situation going to be very desperate, which makes sense because they should be desperate. This is a team that's they are going to. I don't know how I can really say this. Again, I've been really conflicted on this. Part of me wanted to go Tennessee. A lot of me has also wanted to go Georgia because of the home field advantage, and I know how in desperate situations under Kirby Smart, I think the Tennessee game a couple years ago, I think the Ole Miss game last year, they really show up when they're at home, especially when the back's getting against the wall. Saban was like this a little bit. Kirby's also been like this. The last time Georgia lost a home game at home, or really a home game at all, was South Carolina in 2019. That was a long time ago. That was back in the last decade. So that game, if you look back at that game, a lot of folks forget that game even happened, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, it's been almost a decade since that game took place. But back in 2019, what South Carolina was able to do was obviously the missed kicks, obviously from Blankenship, obviously hurt. So a lot of obviously's there, but of course that hurt. Turnovers also kind of a key there too. So if Tennessee were to pull this off, sort of the script, probably a little bit like that South Carolina game in 2019 for Georgia, but because it's at home, it's a night game, a charged environment. I don't know if they're going to wear the black jerseys. We'll see. They probably might. They may bring them out just because of the magnitude of the game. The Grand Shoe wearing a Stern jersey doesn't matter, but to some people it doesn't matter. I don't understand that, but to me it's kind of cool. So kind of hoping to bring out the black jerseys for the game. But I originally actually put Tennessee to win this game. I really did think Tennessee was going to win because how much I respect Josh Heupel, but I can't go against Kirby Smart. And him losing multiple times in the season that hasn't happened yet, it could have very well happened this Saturday. I could be wrong here, and Josh Heupel proves me wrong, and his team is well on their way to probably going to Atlanta at that point. I'm going to pick Georgia to win this game, though, and I think they're going to cover. Because at home, they're a desperate team. Yes, the turnover stuff from Carson Beck's concerning, but I think being at home, you still have a very good defense. It's the home crowd of Tennessee. Nico, the first real big road test. Even bigger, or I guess even more emphasis on road than the Oklahoma game, the Arkansas game. So I like Georgia to win the game outright, and I think they cover. Nothing wrong, nothing against Tennessee either. I just think that this is a very desperate Georgia team, and I think they will find a way to get this to get a win, and I think they will kind of pull away a little bit. I'm gonna have a quick drink of water here. Near about how long are we going for now? About 50 minutes. So we're almost done here. It won't be too much longer. Got one more topic we'll head on with the Buccaneers game, and then we'll get out of here. So again, have a drink of water here, and then we'll move on. So there has been, as we kind of transition here, a lot of talk about the Big Noon Kickoff stuff. This is something that has been kind of a piece of contention for a lot of people. For those of you who don't know, well, obviously you guys do know about Fox, Big Noon Kickoff, and obviously with the media rights stuff, and now the Big Ten, their first media partner that gets first dibs is Fox, who gets the big game, and they get Big Noon Kickoff. That's the only game Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt, Jenny Taft will be at. That is it. So no exceptions. I think they used to do other games besides the noon game, especially they did West Coast games, but they don't do that anymore. So now it's just purely noon kickoff. I know a lot of folks hate it. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I know a lot of them, like Josh Pate's a fan of it. I can understand why, because he's a big fan of noon games in general because of his tour. But for me personally, it's like, I can do without it. Like, it's kind of cool that they emphasize that noon window. I know with the controversy going around, actually, Joel Klatt had a huge Twitter thread. I'm not going to go over it here. I'm pretty sure someone, maybe Josh Peel, may bring it up on this show later. But I'm not going to bring it up here. I mean, other people can do that. But I did read that full-on like thread of stuff that Klatt was bringing up. You brought up a lot of folks for criticizing Big Noon and Fox in particular. But the problem is not necessarily Big Noon Kickoff exists. And now, look, I don't have too much of a problem with it because, again, the noon slate historically has always been the weakest slate because it's noon games, and those usually historically that's where, I mean, the NFL is sort of like this, where the real crappy games are usually placed around like the 1 o'clock window, Eastern, 12 noon, Central. That those games usually get the crappy window. The same kind of goes for college with what Fox is doing, and they're kind of smart to do this. Is that they put the biggest game in the conference they cover the most, which is the Big Ten now. I don't think they do the Big 12 as much, but I think they kind of do. So it's always been the Big 12, Big Ten. I don't think Fox has really done, or at least Big Noon has, at least the actual crew, not the Big Noon site, because I think they're actually at Texas Tech this past weekend. But Gus and Joel and Jenny Taft have not been at any Big 12 game, which is, I believe that is true. So they have not done that, which makes sense, right? Because Big Noon and Big Ten, that's kind of their partnership there, exclusive with the Big Noon Kickoff actual game. But so the real crux of this has been with Ohio State, because over the past ever since the Oregon game, so after the Oregon game, which was a night game, it was on NBC, it has been from October 26th all the way until November 30th. Every single game is at 12 noon Eastern or 11 a.m. Central, and that's how it's going to be. So no night games at all for Ohio State, even with Indiana coming to town in a couple weeks, even with Northwestern this weekend. It's also a noon kickoff, though it is actually on. I'm trying to think. Did I mention Indiana and Ohio State are playing this weekend? I'm sorry. They're not playing this weekend. That's next week. That was a factor. I didn't realize that until I mentioned, I think I didn't mention, I'll go over Indiana, Ohio State Thursday, but no, that game's actually next week. Totally wrong on that. Sorry, that was a fact error. But they do play Northwestern, which is a noon kickoff on Big Ten Network, though. Big Ten Network is an extension of Fox. It's part of the Fox family. So technically it is another noon kickoff for them. So from the last 6 weeks of the season, they have not had a night game. I know for a lot of people that sucks. I think Penn State's also been the victim of that because the whiteout game. By the way, that whiteout game presentation, Pate brought this up too, and he's the only one that's I've heard bring this up, and I agree with him. Atrocious from what I've heard, and it just sucks too. It's on a Peacock on a streaming service. Like, it's the whiteout. Anyway, I'm not gonna go on a whole tangent like he did, but I listened to that again earlier today, and I totally agree with him. That's just the fact that it was on streaming too. It's like, ugh, it's gross. But there's always been this sort of thing with the Big Ten. I'm not going to go on too long on this, but in general, I think this is dumb. Indiana game would have been cool to have a night game there, at least one night game for Ohio State in this window. But a lot of this, the reason why I think they're doing this, and some of it is, well, there's two reasons. One reason is the most important one. The other one's more of like a theory. The main reason is kind of obvious. And Pay brought this up, by the way, with the Penn State whiteout situation, with it being on their whiteout game being on Peacock. A lot of folks in control of these media companies like CBS, Fox, NBC, folks they have in charge of their decision making and some of the production stuff, they're not college football people. He basically just admitted it. They're not college football people. They don't care about the sport. They're more likely just TV people who have done TV shows and movie production. Look, he's right. They may be good at what they do for their regular jobs, and for college football, they're not invested in this. They're just corporate people. Nothing wrong with corporate people, but from a college football perspective, and having people who are not invested in college football handling college football games, at least from a production standpoint, and choosing which game, which time slot's chosen and which network does what, and how the production goes and what it looks like, and just the aesthetically what it looks like. There's no, at least from what a lot of people can tell, including Pay, a lot of those folks aren't college football fans. They don't honor the traditions. They don't honor the whiteout. They don't honor the fact that Ohio State has been forcing their fan base to watch a game at noon kickoff since after the working game. It's not fun. It's not something I like, but that's the main reason why. It's just the corporate people. It's, that's again the thing with Fox, and they get first dibs and everything, and they prefer things to be at noon. That's a Fox thing. I know a lot of people like the Big Noon Kickoff. I'm kind of different on it, like I mentioned, but the other theory here, or the other thing I wanted to point out, or the second item here, it's more of a theory because it's not necessarily true, but I can't believe it is true. I'm not going to go full on like conspiracy theory here, but there's always been a rumor and a theory going around about the Big Ten. Their stance on night games in November. Have you noticed? There's not a lot of them. Not a lot of night games in November. There was an old rule going around, or at least an old Reddit thing floating around about how the Big Ten office has never been a big fan of night games in November. They don't like it because of the weather situation, how it could be, horrible conditions, whatnot. And they've always cited that as a reason why they don't do night games in November. Well, I don't know if I believe that's not true. The whole, night game rule, the unofficial night game rule in November. Part of me does believe some of that might be true. That there is just a stance there because of the weather, and they don't like the fact that they don't want their players playing in like 50-degree weather and it being real windy and potential for, snow and whatnot. And the fact that, well, not snow usually, but the fact that, yes, of course, it gets colder as you go on, and especially in November, especially up in like the Midwest and like Ohio and Michigan and Indiana, where it gets, most of the games there are played in like 30-degree weather. So pretty close to freezing in some cases. And they don't want their players dealing with that. They'll much rather it be around noon where the temperature's a lot higher. It's a lot safer, at least for player health. And look, from that standpoint, I get that. But as a college football fan, it's like, so you're blaming on the weather. Okay, that's like me saying that, oh, I'm not going to go out, or, me saying, oh, I'm not going to go walk around because I don't like when the sprinklers come on in my apartment complex. Like, just just deal with it sometimes. Make it a little bit wet, but, of course, what I'm referring to is anyone who's in that apartment, especially around these walking trails and whatnot, if you go for a run or a walk and you like to go, off your apartment complex campus, they usually have these little sprinkler systems, and they come out at like a certain set time, and, most people try to avoid them, but sometimes you have to deal with it. But kind of a stupid analogy aside, I don't know. I've never understood why that's been such a big problem for the Big Ten. I don't know why they're so afraid to do, or at least I understand why they're so afraid of the whole cold weather stuff. Like, that should be an advantage, right? That should be a huge advantage for them. Like, that's one of the things that Big Ten fans have always brought up, that they've always wanted to have the SEC team, especially now with the expanded playoff, and now they're going to have on-campus games, is that they've always wanted Big Ten teams hosting SEC teams or these ACC teams in cold weather. And for most of the time, yes, granted, it's still kind of cold in like December, January, but it's not as cold as it would be, in the evening. And I get it from the player safety standpoint. I get it. That's like, it's a good reason why the Big Ten doesn't do it, especially in November. But to me, it's like, I don't know, like the Kansas City Chiefs can play a game and like minus, like with negative numbers on the thermometer. Like, so I don't know why it's so hard for that, but yeah, there's obviously two reasons. The main one is the whole corporatization and the corporate people are getting involved with college football and they're not real fans. That's often the main reason why you're seeing a lot of these weird, Ohio State only having noon kickoff stuff. And the second one too is the whole Big Ten unwritten rule about 9 games in November. I think that rule is stupid. I know it's not a real thing, but come on, let's be real. It probably is a real thing, but it's stupid. I wish they wouldn't do it, but by the way, too, with the playoff games and on campus, with Big Ten schools probably hosting one, Penn State probably, can guarantee you there will not be any night games. Those games are probably at noon, so just prepare yourself for that. No night games, unfortunately, for like Beaver Stadium or Autzen Stadium or whoever gets hosted a home playoff game. But yeah, probably not going to be no night games because of the weather and the no night games after November or after October from the Big Ten, supposedly. But yeah. That's how thoughts on the whole Ohio State thing. Yeah, it sucks. You're on noon. I get it. I get what Joel Klatt was trying to say. Yes, it's a company thing. It's a company policy. It's what they, it's the whole emphasis on the noon thing. But still, it's like, come on, like Purdue Ohio State doesn't have to be the big noon kickoff game. And that too is also, that's not a very pleasing game. Like Purdue is like the worst like P4 team in the country. At least one of them. Florida State has a not too far behind, but still, it's like could really do without it. One last thing here before we end the show: 49ers Buccaneers reaction. Final score on this one did not go to overtime. By the way, it looked like it was going to, but it didn't. Buccaneers now 4-6. Final score in this one 23-20. Much like the Chiefs game. I mean, kind of an entertaining game, fun game to watch. If you're a generic fan. I was watching this at another bar here locally in Jacksonville, Miller's Ale House, by the way. Not a sponsor of the show. If you want to be a sponsor of the show, and let me know, Miller Ale House and Buffalo Wild Wings, I guess, because I go there. I've been there before multiple times. But I was there on Sunday. It was a fun game to watch if you're a generic fan. Christian McCaffrey came back. Played pretty well. Brock Purdy had a pretty good game. Baker, again, no turnovers, at least to if I can remember correctly. Just not good enough. Defensively, Lennis down again. 49ers go down the field and score, even with a Herculean play, by the way, by Baker. To over Charlotte on that fourth down play. Just incredible. Just a massive effort there. One of the best plays I've seen all year. Just an individual play. Just wasn't enough. Now they're 4-6. They thankfully have a bye week. Tristan Wirfs, by the way, Wirfs went down, the best offensive or one of the better O-linemen in the NFL. He went down. Should be back by the time they play the Giants in a couple weeks, week of Thanksgiving. Still very concerned about that game. I don't care about the Giants, or I'll continue to say that. That game does worry me a little bit. But the Bucs in a bye week. Again, yes, as much as I am worried about the Giants, the schedule does kind of level up just a little bit. You give 3 games you should be favored in. They have to go out to LA for what it's worth. Dallas, Carolina, again, the Saints, gross. Though they didn't win this weekend, so it helps out the Bucs a little bit, but they're still trying their division. Definitely looks more and more likely you're probably going to miss the playoffs for the first time since last decade, which was 2019. It's the first time this decade they even missed the playoffs. So, which sucks. But as a Buccaneers fan, as my entire time as being a fan for over 10 years, and missing the playoffs for much of last decade and making them for the first couple years of this decade, it's a decent trade-off. Very good trade-off. I'd much prefer making the playoffs every single year than missing them every single year since I've been a fan up until 2020. But I guess as a Bucs fan, you kind of do forget that times are a lot worse than this. There was the infamous Thursday night, my first year as a fan, Falcons game, not Cardinals. Though one of those games too was really bad too. Mike Evans' first year, it was a Thursday night game in Atlanta at the old Georgia Dome. Just an absolute splattering. That's a total kick in the nuts. Just an awful game. From watching that, just very sad. That would be probably the best example of a Josh Pate style Sarah McLachlan special. But of course, as a Bucs fan, I've seen the team come a long way from there. A lot of players are on that team are still there. Levante David, Mike Evans, both. Some of the last ones that are on the team. So they've come a long way. They've missed the playoffs. It's just kind of is what it is at this point. They're close in a lot of these games. And what's really interesting, if you change some stuff like a defensive stop, one turnover being cut out, the Bucs could be in a pretty good position. They could be where the Eagles are right now. They're a team that are surging right now. Whereas Tampa is kind of falling into the same position they were last year. And I believe, too, it's the exact same record. So things are looking very bleak for them right now. I know a lot of folks are still putting a lot of hate on Todd Bowles. I don't know, to be honest, what the future holds for him. I think he'll still be back, but there's a lot that can change between now and then. That's all I'm going to say. Offensively, again, Liam Cohen continues to keep us in games. Defensively has been a bit of a disappointment. Rush defense has gone worse. Pass defense is still pretty average to below average, as it got exposed really in that Thursday night about a month ago during the Falcons game, and it's been about the same, a little bit worse. It's not been good enough. Very disappointing, and it just is what it is right now for Tampa. So don't have much joy in saying that, but it is what it is. I have to get out of here. Been going for over an hour. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go to Spotify, same thing. Sign up there. Like the live streams. Follow me on Twitter as well at @4verts_pod. We will be back on Thursday. Rest of the game week's prediction, not including Ohio State, Indiana. That's next week, not this week. Got that confused earlier. We'll talk about some of the Marvel stuff. Another trailer for Thunderbolts and Captain America: A Brave New World came out. So I will discuss those because of the San Diego Comic-Con, not San Diego Comic-Con, the Brazil Comic-Con. There's the Brazil version was going on, and they did release new material for that. I also got some news as well about the new Star Wars trilogy of Simon Kinberg. I will discuss that too on Thursday. So Thursday will probably be a lot longer show, I think. So just keep it on the YouTube channel too, because with these live streams, we do these randomly. That's whenever I feel like recording the actual pod and when I want to go live. So these are both being recorded at the same time. So again, make sure you subscribe to the podcast feed, YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter as well. So until Thursday, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. I know the college football playoff ranking is coming out tonight. I'll see them on Twitter later. I know I have an interest in watching that show, but whatever. But yeah, we'll be here on Thursday. Little note here too. We have a situation in the tropics. I'll touch on that on Thursday too, but just something I'm watching, so that may complicate some stuff next week. Just letting you guys know that it may complicate some stuff. Maybe have to move some shows again around. I'll touch on that a little bit on Thursday once you get more idea. But yeah, there will be a tropical system down there. And based on the current European GFS models, which is the forecast models, weather models that meteorologists use, definitely looks like there could be a low-end hurricane, high-end tropical storm moving in. So more than likely, we will have to move around some stuff in lieu of that. So I'll mention that again on Thursday. So I'll keep an eye on it, and I'll probably bring it up again Thursday. Oh, I will bring it up on Thursday. I'll make sure to remind myself of that. But until then, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Enjoy your Wednesday. So until then, take